amazing. I'm really kind of bummed. I gotta say, this is probably the last time in my life I get to be on stage for a rock concert. And it's hard to let that go. That's hard. But it's been such an amazing experience to get to work with Justin and sit back there and listen to all of this every other night or so. It's been fantastic. So I'm just really glad you all could hear that, because it's amazing stuff. And now, I picked some questions that you guys had filled out before the show, and hopefully I picked the right ones, and they will answer your burning questions about Breaking Dawn. Although I threw in one from the host, because yay, there was a host question. Let's go ahead with that.
Are you ready for question number one?
Let's do it.
Besides Midnight Sun and continuing the host series, what else are you thinking of writing about?
Okay, that one I actually didn't write. I've been starting out with a kind of overall question, because most of the questions are you going to follow Renesmee further into the future? Are you going to write something about Garrett? Alice and Jasper? So it's good to start out with what my plans are as of right now. And first of all, obviously, I need to go work on Midnight Sun and get that. But before I get back to, vampires or even the host, which has kind of been calling to me lately, there's a lot of other characters that are just dying for their chance. It's kind of a funny place inside my head. There's a lot of people there, and they're always jockeying for time. And so there's a couple of stories I'm really excited about right now. So I think the next thing will probably be a ghost story, and then we'll keep seeing.
Our second question comes from Lindsay. It says, you said that Twilight originally had a more defined ending. What would that be?
That was a good question. Originally, when Twilight was just going to be one book, and I wasn't really thinking about sequels, Bella and Edward actually got engaged at the end of Twilight, and sort of were headed off into their happily ever after. And then I kept writing epilogues, very long epilogues, and I realized, gosh, I'm not ready to be done with these characters, but where do I go from here? And that's why I wrote the original sequel that I called Forever Dawn back then, immediately after Twilight, because it sort of ended where Eclipse had ended. And then I thought, there's a lot of time that we skipped over here. Bella's senior year, there's so much that I just sort of said, and with one thing and another, we got to the wedding. So I went back and delved more deeply into high school, and I'm really glad I did, because I had a tremendous amount of fun writing New Moon and Breaking Dawn. I mean, an Eclipse. So that's where originally Twilight ended.
We got a question from Rebecca. She asked if it's not too much trouble. Could you please explain all the symbolism for the Twilight series covers?
Okay, this one I get a lot, so let's go through it. All right, first we have Twilight, which is about the idea of choice. You have an offer in that cover. Are you going to bite into this apple? Apples have a lot of history, so there's a pretty good chance that thing's poisoned, just going off the mythology. So that for me made a really interesting idea, because is Bella going to find out about this other world, or is she happy the way she is? Of course, we know what she chose. Then we have New Moon, a very lovely ruffled tulip that actually has no meaning at all. This was before I got to veto covers I didn't like. And so that one was just somebody at the company thought that was a really cool color scheme. I was like, okay, well, whatever. So then we had Eclipse, which I did get to have a lot to say. And this is sort of a visible example of what happens when you try and break away from your old life and you don't do it in a clean cut. It gets messy. There are strings you can't break. Bella trying to break away from her life, it got pretty messy for a while there. So this was my visual representation of that. And then we have Breaking Dawn, which I did have a veto on, so this was exactly what I wanted, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. There are two reasons for this cover. In one sense, it is the cover for the entire series, because we have Bella starting out as the weakest player on the board, and then she progresses to when she becomes the most powerful player. And she's usually the one that affects the ending of the story. So this was about Bella's progression. Also, in specific for Breaking Dawn, I knew that the end was going to be a mental game. And what game represents a mental game more than chess, so I wanted to foreshadow the end, but that is why the covers are the way they are.